Hello, it's Doris with Aldi Books, and I'm here with a bit of a Friday reads on a Tuesday. I think it's still Tuesday. I don't know. It's been a blur for me lately, but I want to wrap up the last two books that I finished in January and tell you a little bit about what I'm reading now and what I plan to read. So Friday reads on a Tuesday. Let's do this. Is it a belated Friday reads or an early Friday reads? Probably very belated. Anyway, let's dive in because this could take a while. So first up, I want to talk about the book Naturalist reads for January. We did a spotlight on Rachel Carson, so there are several books of hers that you can choose from. I just honestly cannot believe that I had never read Silent Spring. And I didn't even know about her other books, to be quite honest. Like, my mind is blown. My mind is absolutely blown. I think that, like, I guess I'd heard about her as a teenager and a young adult. I mean, I know I had, but I think that I just kind of assumed that she'd written a dated 1970s style textbook. I don't know where I got that from, but Rachel Carson was an amazing woman. Oh my word. I'm blown away. I'm blown away. I am Rachel Carson fan club now. All the above, all the above. So Silent Spring is very scientific. I mean, I enjoyed learning more about her life and what she went through and what she fought for. But another thing I really enjoyed about this is basically her argument, so well presented, that the new experimental chemicals, the more inorganic style chemicals that were being used as pesticides and herbicides, were causing a hell of a lot more damage than we realized. And this was just her clarion call to stop it, to think before we poison the earth. And, you know, all of the effects that it was having, it's still very relevant today. Her scientific treatises and her research on how it was affecting the waterways and the soil and the insect populations in ways that we just didn't even imagine it could, like making them stronger. Like the insect pests would just rebound in more numbers than ever before after these outlays of poisons. And like, why we even thought that poisoning would just target the one pest that we were after, like, how naive. Anyway, I really enjoyed this for the historical aspect as well. I think I've said on occasion, I know I have, that I really like reading fiction that's written, you know, in different time periods, just to see, you know, the mindset of people at the time. But sometimes I think that dated nonfiction is going to be boring or irrelevant. This was anything but. Fabulous, brilliant author, brilliant woman, brilliant scientist, all the above. And now this is very technical. I know that it's maybe not for everyone, but there is Rachel Carson for everyone. There is. I started Under the Sea Wind this morning and am just captivated. This is just so charming. She, in her younger years of her career worked for, I guess, the fish and wildlife industry. As a writer and editor, she started out as an English major and then switched to biology based on, some input from professors. And the marriage of literature and nature is just so wondrous in her writing. So this is following 3 different sea creatures and using them as kind of characters to illustrate the sea. So the seashore, like the more estuary, the sea environment, surface out to sea, and then the deep sea, the sea floor. And just like the first chapter was just delightful. You kind of see the world from the perspective of these creatures. And it is just, if you've started Silent Spring before and it just wasn't working for you, I highly recommend that you give this a whirl. And the introduction, connections. The introduction was written by Linda Lear of Beatrix Potter fame. I just read this this past fall and really enjoyed it. Great piece of nature writing. Did not know Beatrix Potter was herself an amateur scientist. But then when I was reading the introduction, and you get a lot of background of Rachel Carson in the introduction to this one. It's written by Linda Lear, and she has written a biography of Rachel Carson. So I am 100% going to be reading that this year because, all the Rachel Carson fangirling over here. So good. So planning on reading all of the Rachel Carson. I believe she has 4 books plus Silent Spring. And the fact that her career had taken off, like she wrote this book, Under the Sea Wind, and it was published in 1941 as World War II was starting. So she didn't recover like financially all of the time she invested in writing it. And then when her second book came out 10 years later, it did reach instantaneous fame, and this one was republished and she became a renowned author. And the fact that she risked all of that to write this environmental treatise and start the environmental movement, just such an important woman. And so good. So that is Book Naturalists. I did want to mention February Book Naturalists. It should be right here in front of me somewhere. Well, I don't know where it went. Sorry, friends. Like, it should be right there. Anyway, if I find it, I will show you. Where could it be? Anyway, oh, I know where it is. There it is. Sorry. So February's Book Naturalist pick is Undrowned Black Feminist Lessons from Marine Mammals by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. And this fits in quite nicely with Black History Month as well. So excited to get started on that very soon. The other book that I finished at the end of January, oh my goodness, Wild Swans by Jing Chang, 3 Daughters of China. This is going to be one of those books that I am constantly telling people that you need to read it. Like, this is the one book that I'm going to say you really, if you're going to read a book this year, this is the book that you need to read. My mind is absolutely blown. Absolutely blown. It goes through all of Mao, like all of it, all of the onset of communism and the different iterations that it went through in China. And then right before that with the grandmother, like she was of the very, very, very last generation that went through foot binding. This book, I mean, to tell you, it's engrossing. Like, you can just read it for hours and never, ever get bored. Her writing style is just so, it's like poetic and succinct at the same time. She doesn't get bogged down in her words, but the writing is so beautiful. The way she writes her family's story and her own story, because the author herself is the third generation told in this story. She has such a clear view of her family, their faults, their foibles, their love. Like, the things her father did, and that she could still love him through it and still see the man he was and why he made the choices he did. And while she might not have agreed with them, we would judge him, she could still love him and let him, you know, become a different person. Like, so good, so good. And the insight, like, I had no clue. Like, I knew that there were bad things that went on during the Communist Revolution and the Cultural Revolution in China, but I had no idea that Chairman Mao was that bad. Like, color me ignorant, but oh my gosh. And the way that he just manipulated this entire nation and weaponized his own people, not just once, but repeatedly against each other. And the way they lived for decades not knowing how to act to get by in their society. He just, you know, weaponized, you know, the communist faction, and then weaponized, you know, he decided they were getting too much power and weaponized the teenagers against the educated older generation, the peasants. You know, he just weaponized all these different factions of the population and changed their views over and over again, so that it was just so unstable and never knowing what he needed to do to be doing the right thing according to the government. Like, wow. I don't want to get too political, but this book, like, if you want to understand what's gone on in modern history, like right now, so many insights in here. So many insights in this book. And you see why it happened. Like, you see the parts of communism that captivated an entire generation, and then another generation, you know, the lifting up of diverse groups, of women, you know, of the disenfranchised. Yeah, just so insightful. beautiful, this book, and so well written and engrossing. There were a couple of points in the very end where I cried. I just did. I cried because wow. And I don't want to spoil it for you, you know. It's nonfiction, but you know, sometimes nonfiction, you know, is even better than fiction. It often is. Like, but I kind of, she can do things like Larson. You know, Larson can take history and just keep you going. Just keep you going. June Chang does that as well. And I will say that make sure I'm going to check real quick. I listened to this on audiobook. And so this version has an epilogue, but my audiobook version had a really extensive afterword. So I highly recommend you make sure and get that really long afterword because OMG, wow, you need it. You need it in your life. So I am still reading The Way We Live Now by Anthony Trollope, and really enjoying it, but it's a book that I just read a little bit at a time. It's not one that I am compulsively reading, but I think that is going to be a lot of fun. And then I'm really excited to pick up A Caught Woman. This came a couple weeks ago, and I haven't gotten to it yet because I was finishing up some other things. Nnedi Okorafor. I think that this will be my first Black History Month read. I actually was going to pick it up yesterday, and then I thought, no, let me save it for February 1st because that'll be a great way to start off the month. Beautiful cover. And oh my gosh, the BookTube prize came out this morning, and I'm so excited. So I am doing translated fiction, the first round. I think I'm in group G. I looked at it this morning and I've been busy at work ever since. So, but group G, and my group has I think it's Strange Beasts of China or something like that. Anyway, it was like the one that I like really wanted to read when I saw the long list, and we voted on, you know, the ones that were going to be in the octafinals. So I'm super excited to get started on that. I have found 5 of them from my library. So I was able to reserve 5, and I think I'm probably going to have to buy the 6th, but I'll wait a couple weeks and see if maybe it shows up. But anyway, yeah, and the nonfiction list looks fabulous. A lot of the nature writing books made it through the octafinals this year, so I'm thrilled. I'm so thrilled. So yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, so thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back soon. Chat with you then. Bye.